Okay, here's a thought. What if the most human thing about us, our emotional bonds, is the very thing holding us back? Today, we're going to dive into a pretty radical idea that for humanity to take its next big evolutionary step, we might have to get over the one thing that truly connects us.
So here it is, the core statement from our source material. Emotional dependence hinders humanity's entry into advanced civilization. Just let that sink in for a second. It's a big one. What on earth could that even mean?
I mean, that's a huge claim, right? So, in this explainer, we're going to break it down piece by piece. We're going to look at the logic behind it, what the implications could be, and really see if this controversial idea holds any water.
First things first, we've got to be on the same page with our terms. When we say emotional dependence, what are we actually talking about? Is it love? Is it just caring about people? Well, let's get a really clear definition.
Okay, so this is the key. We're not just talking about loving someone or caring for others. It's a state of reliance. It's when your own sense of who you are and whether you're okay is outsourced to someone else. Your emotional compass isn't yours anymore. And that, the argument goes, can make you react on impulse and make some pretty irrational choices.
And this is super important because it's really easy to hear emotional dependence and just think, oh, so the argument is that all feelings and connections are bad. But that's not quite what's being said here. There's a really critical difference we need to understand.
And this slide, this is everything. This is the whole ball game. Over on the left, you've got dependence. See how it's rooted in need and fear? It's that feeling of, I need you for my own stability. But then look to the right at connection. That comes from a place of choice and trust. It's saying, I choose to be with you, to grow with you. One is kind of like a cage, and the other is a bridge. Getting this distinction is absolutely crucial.
All right, so we've got a handle on emotional dependence. Now let's tackle the second half of that big, bold statement. What exactly do we mean by an advanced civilization?
And obviously, this is getting into some pretty speculative territory. We're probably not just talking about flying cars and cool outfits here. We're talking about a fundamental change in the way an entire civilization works. So what could that even look like? Well, according to this line of thinking, an advanced civilization is one that makes its biggest decisions based on pure logic. What gives the absolute best outcome, not what feels good. It would mean we could finally cooperate on a global scale, maybe even beyond, because we wouldn't be stuck in our little tribal squabbles. We could actually solve the big species-level problems. The focus would shift entirely from how do I survive to how do we, as a collective, progress.
So now let's bring the two pieces together. We have this idea of emotional dependence on one side, and this vision of an advanced civilization on the other. How exactly does the first one stop us from getting to the second? Well, that's what we're calling the hindrance hypothesis. And this lays it all out, step by step. First, our emotional need to belong to our tribe, our group, our country, makes us naturally afraid of outsiders. And that's the complete opposite of global unity. Second, what happens when the most logical solution is emotionally painful, like, say, having to abandon a tradition to save the planet? Our dependence on what's comfortable can make us choose the illogical path. And finally, that fear of the unknown, our attachment to how we've always done things, can just strangle radical new ideas before they even have a chance to breathe.
At the end of the day, this is what it all boils down to. This is the central conflict in the whole hypothesis. It's a species-wide struggle, really. A war between what our hearts feel is right and what our minds can calculate is necessary.
Which brings us to our final and maybe most mind-bending section. If any of this is true, what would a future without emotional dependence actually look like? It's a pretty wild thing to try and wrap your head around, isn't it? I mean, so much of our identity, our drive, our art, it's all tied up in our emotions and connections. To imagine a world that moves past that kind of dependence, well, you're imagining a totally different kind of existence. And when you lay out the pros and cons like this, wow, it's a lot. On the one hand, you get these incredible upsides, unmatched cooperation, solutions to our biggest problems, maybe even the end of war itself. But then you look at the cost. Would we lose art? Empathy? What happens to things like love, compassion, sacrifice? It's a really stark trade-off. And there it is. That's the core dilemma, isn't it? To get to that next level, to achieve this incredible vision of progress, would we have to give up the very things that make us feel, well, human? Our passions for our progress? So I'll just leave you with this final question to chew on. Is this the final barrier we have to cross?
And if it is what's on the other side actually worth the price of admission? Something to think about.